Okay. I believe I am recording. All right. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me. So, the average American uses roughly 1 million kilowatts of energy or kilowatt hours of energy in their lifetime, according to freeingenergy.com. But with the ever growing demand for power and quite frankly, the environmental destruction that comes from building green power and the pollution caused by our conventional power sources, we need to find another alternative. And I believe that alternative is nuclear. My family's kind of been around nuclear for most of our lives. My great grandfather's worked on the Manhattan Project. My grandfather documented nuclear research for Department of Energy for like 20 or 30 years. So I grew up learning about all this. And sorry, I'm like drawing blank. I mean, for years, the oil companies have been putting out information contrary to what is really true about nuclear. Honestly, it's one of the safest forms of power. It is the cleanest, and it's really been a shame because, I mean, France is almost all nuclear, and they're one of the few countries currently with our situation going on in Europe and Asia with Russia that is independent of the hikes on energy that are being caused by Russia raising prices on natural gas and oil that is exported to most of the other countries to fuel their power plants. But with our ever growing need for power, we need to find a new source. Nuclear doesn't have the greenhouse emissions that coal or natural gas or oil have. It has pretty much only water vapor as its emission and a small amount of fuel considering how much energy comes from uranium. One kilowatt of, or 1 kilogram of coal will generate 8 kilowatt hours roughly of electricity for the average consumer. Whereas oil will generate roughly 12 kilowatt hours per kilogram. Nuclear, on the other hand, generates 24 million kilowatt hours from 1 kilogram of uranium. That'll supply the average American for 24 lifetimes or 24 different people from 1 kilogram. That's a lot of power. And from that, we end up with, yes, there's nuclear waste. Radiation is kind of difficult to deal with. But through reprocessing, and we can take most of the low-level waste out, and it can be stored separately. The mid-level waste can also be separated. A lot of that can be reprocessed. And then your high-level waste contains a lot of unspent fuel that can be reprocessed back into fuel rods to be put back into reactors. This leaves us with a very small amount of actual waste per person. For your lifetime, we're looking at something about the size of a dum-dum sucker. or small lollipop per person per lifetime compared to the fly ash dumps that are filled every 2 or 3 years from the coal burning plants and their scrubbers to remove all the carcinogens and poisons that are in those fumes. But honestly, the big thing is soon we might not even have to worry about the radioactive tailings. In France right now is being developed a new type of nuclear power station that relies on fusion energy. Just like the sun uses, but on a much smaller scale. They're going to be coming online in 2025, and it will be the first functional fusion power station of its type. It's being run by a company or a group called ITER, or ITER. I'm not exactly sure on the pronunciation. It is French. They do weird things. But with the advent of the fusion power plants, the only outputs from the plant would be helium and power. And all we need to put into it is deuterium and tritium, which are forms of hydrogen, which we can get from water. And unlike solar farms, which take huge areas of land, I mean, the same size solar farm to equal out a nuclear reactor would be hundreds of acres. The comparison's not really that close. And with wind turbines aging out now and just being thrown into landfills and buried, nuclear honestly is looking better than a lot of our green energy options. So with less emissions, less waste, and a smaller footprint than our current alternatives, I really see no drawbacks to nuclear. I believe it is the future of the power that we need. Thank you for joining us.